Okay, so in this tutorial, what we're going to cover is a couple of questions that I've been asked by a team member. So I want to go ahead and get those answered for future reference here. And one of the questions is when they were looking up the phone number here, it didn't have the area code in there. So the question is, do you still input this number on your worksheet? So you get right here and you see the format says 615. But if you don't have an area code, first off, what I would say is if you absolutely cannot find an area code for this, yes, you still want to input that. So you would still want to copy and paste it and submit it just like that to me. It's better for me to have some sort of a phone number than none at all. But I'm going to show you another way to where you can double check to make sure that it does indeed have an area code or does not have an area code. So here's how we're going to do this. So if you see it with this one, it does not have an area code. So you'd want to find that area code. Well, the way that you do that is you go up to Pleadings and click on Pleadings. And from there, you are going to see these columns right here. And you will see detainer warrant, return, or judgment. That means that it has already went to court, this eviction has, and the judge has already came to a conclusion for that eviction. But what you're particularly interested in, most of the time it's only going to have one of these boxes that's going to have PDF actually in it already. And what that tells us is that's a PDF file you can see from where all of the information was entered by hand. So here's what you would do for that. You would click View beside PDF, and you'll see that this is coming up. And from here, you can see when someone went to the courthouse, let's say the owner of the property, right here, what they did was when they went to the courthouse to evict a tenant, they filled this part out right here. So you can see they filled their name in, their address that they are living at, and their phone number. So see how that had no 615 when you were looking on this, on the addresses, but indeed there actually is an area code in it, 615. So then you would know you could put 615 in there. So that's the first way just to double check for that. And another problem that can happen is since these are handwritten, sometimes what somebody writes right here, say the homeowner enters this information and he puts 4022 Sequoia. Well, what happens if the person who is recording this puts 402 Sequoia and then they leave out a 2? Well, that can be a problem for you when you're searching, and I'm going to show you an example of that right fast. Okay, so for this example, let's say that right here where it's typed in that you go to this next eviction file and you're looking it up, and you see for the address that it says 4336A Saundersville. But let's say for an example that 6 isn't on there. Let's say that it just says 433A Saundersville. And so next you would naturally go to check it out, and let's say you enter 433 Saundersville. Oh, no parcels are found. So where they just mistyped it here, you got 433A Saundersville, and you aren't able to find it by doing just a search here. So here are a couple of steps that I would take in order to make that a little bit easier to make sure that that this is entered just the right way to do it. So the first thing that I would do was I would assume that the plaintiff again is going to be the homeowner of the property. His name is Stephen Branson. So the first thing I would do is I would do a name search and I would leave off that number altogether. So I would take this out, and we're still in Davidson County, which is where all evictions are filed, so you know Davidson County. But street name Saunders, and you can type in Bill, but if there aren't a bunch of names that start with Saunders, you can just leave it like that. Leave the street name off. And again, the plaintiff, the owner, is Stephen Branson. So you can also search by name. So we know his last name is Branson. And see how it says owner's first initial? What that means is you do not want to enter Stephen. You just want to enter S. Or you can leave that out altogether. Let's do that as a matter of fact. See what happens. So look, there's 2. Stephen Branson owns this one. And you can see where the 3 was left off. It was actually 4336 Saundersville. So then you would know to go ahead and pull the information the same way. But for this example, let's say that even with the name that you put in, you still weren't able to find it. So let's say the last name just didn't work. You used Branson, it was spelled correctly, but it still didn't come up. Well, here's another way to actually take care of that. What you would do is you would go up to pleadings, the same way that you would use to find for the phone number, the area code, and then you would find your PDF again because you want to open up where it was handwritten because it was probably just a mistake for the person who did data entry on that site. And now you would look to here where it was handwritten and see, you would go, that's his address, mailing, and 4336. See, the data entry person might have just accidentally left that off when you can see right here 10336. So that's a good way just to, in my opinion, that's a good way to check over everything and make sure that you have all of your bases covered when you're doing each entry. And so anyways, I hope that helps out with this one. Here's another example of maybe something that you'll come across, and when you do, how to know the correct way to enter the information. So let's say that you're doing a search for this one, and you're going to go ahead and put in 3819 Edwards into your tax records. So you do the search, 3819 Edwards, and then here is the name, the property address, and the owner name, Kenneth Wayne Hackney. Well, see, when you look on this, you actually see Wayne Hackney. You don't see Kenneth Wayne Hackney like you do right here. See Kenneth Wayne Hackney and Wayne Hackney. Now the question is, which one is the correct way to enter into the web form for data entry? And the answer is for evictions, to always use the eviction notice, because that's the way that the person refers to themselves. You see, when this person went to the courthouse, when it said, what is your first name? They didn't say Kenneth Wayne Hackney. They simply said, my name is Wayne Hackney. And you can see, just to further explain this, we can go to where they actually wrote it themselves. So here's the PDF file. We'll go ahead and open that. And we will double check to make sure he didn't call himself Kenneth Wayne. And let's see. Yeah, and here we go. The plaintiff, Wayne Hackney. And another thing with this that you'll notice, if you ever pull it up and you notice this, you're actually not going to send this one. And the reason is because it says care of Thomas Patrick Wall, and you see how it's typed out, it's not handwritten. What this is telling us is that this right here is actually an attorney for this person right here. So what that means to us is that means that he has a property manager and an attorney, but he more than likely has a lot more than one property. And we are primarily looking for homeowners that are evicting someone that only owns 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 properties, not a bunch of properties, whereas this guy probably does because he has an attorney who types it up and already has it all prepared whenever they're evicting someone. So if you see one such as this that has this, you're going to first off use his name the way that he has it right here. And you're also not going to put it in, though, because of this, because you can see that someone went down there and was representing him, and more than likely that would not be anything that would work out. So I hope that helps you with that, to understand that better. Here is an example of one that I just want to make sure that it's clear, just in case there are questions down the road. And essentially, I'm going to just go through this scenario the same way that you would encounter it and what to look for in order to know if it's a good lead or a bad lead. So let's use this one right here. Let's say you come across this one and it's 1205 London Bridge Road. That's the address that you're going to search for. So you do 1205 London, go ahead and search. And so far, everything looks good with the lead. And so you're looking right here. You start off here. This address is different from that. That's a good thing. It is residential. That's a good thing. And the last sale date was longer than 3 years ago, so that's a good thing, right? Well, here's where it's not a good thing. When you look at property type residential, you also have underneath it land use. And there are two things that you want to look out for and not include them because they are bad leads. We don't mail to them. If the land use says mobile home, it's a bad lead because it's not actually a home, it's a mobile home. If it also says condominium, if it says that it is a condo or a condominium, you do not want to send to that person, so you just want to consider that a bad lead from that point. So if it says residential but mobile home or condominium, it is a bad lead. And I'm going to show an example of one that was done recently and what a condominium looks like. So here's an example of one that I had inputted recently and why I deleted it, because it's a bad lead. So what you would see is you would go 2020 Beach Avenue, and from there you would go ahead and enter it in your search, and then it would come up. And as you're going down through here, you would notice two different addresses. That's good. The last sale date was longer than 3 years ago, so that's good. Property types residential, that's actually good. But then land use type, it has residential condominium. See that part right there? And the improvement type condominium. That lets us know that that is a condo, which here that is in a multi-unit property, over 5 units typically, and they're just harder to sell, so we do not want to look for condominiums or mobile homes. So I hope that that answers some questions when you come across it. And that is the end of this Q&A tutorial, and I hope that it helps you out. And if you have any more questions, send them my way. I'll be glad to answer them.